I'm afraid the sun's going to come out on me in just a second here, and it's going to reflect off of my iPad, and I'm not going to be able to show you a few examples of 1890s posture. So let me do this right now. This is Sam Thompson. He was, for his day, one of the great home run hitters. Notice, the spread of the hands, but also he's holding the bat down around the belt buckle. Now, it looks like for the card, he's trying to pretend that he's swinging at a ball. But trust me, they actually set up in the box with the hands just about right over the belt buckle. And also notice the erect stance is no bend in the knees. The shoulders are not bent, it's just straight up. And also that his front foot is pointed right out toward the pitcher. All of this is very typical for the time. And here we have Mike King Kelly. This is more colorful. This is a baseball card from the day. And he's doing the same thing. Feet very close together here, standing erect, front foot pointing out toward the pitcher. Hands poised over the belt buckle, a little bit above. And it's interesting to me that he has a little spread in the hands, but not much. This is not something I really want to talk about in particular today, but we have talked about hand spreading a lot on small ball success. And it does seem to me that when guys bat with their strong hand on top, I find this in myself, which is why I notice it in the old cards. You don't tend to want to spread your hands as much. When your strong hand is on the bottom, that's when you really do the hand spreading. And Sam Thompson and Dan Brothers and those guys, they were right-handers who batted left. And when you find their pose in the old baseball cards, you see that substantial spread that grew especially famous when Ty Cobb used it, but it was being used 2-3 decades before Cobb. But usually in hitters who have their better hand on the bottom. Now I'm going to get to this in a minute, but again, I'm afraid the sun's going to mess up my... I'm already getting glare on the screen, so I want to do this before it gets worse. This is incredible, isn't it? But it's a pose that Zack Wheat, Hall of Famer, seemed to like to stage for the camera. I hope that he didn't finish the swing looking out to the right field dugout, but I'm sure he stayed on the ball a little bit better than that. But the incredible thing is this Reggie Jackson sort of spread of the feet, and yet he doesn't have Reggie's, he's not, the bat is not almost level to the ground wrapped around his shoulder. So this one, I'm going to come back to this because it's always been a puzzler for me. I don't know what in the heck Zach is really doing here. And again, he's a player from the teens of the 20th century. He's firmly located in what we call the dead ball era. I wanted in this video to try to go back and gather together some things that are very new and some things that are very old and try to make some sense of them. Actually, originally I got the idea to try to make this kind of grab bag discussion because I've been trying to figure out for years, why did the old guys in the 1890s stand that way with the front foot pointed out toward the pitcher? Pardon this high angle on the camera, by the way, but I'm trying to get my feet into the picture. So you have an erect posture, feet pretty close together, and the front one out toward the pitcher, and the hands are right over the belt buckle just about. So why were they doing that? When I wrote my book called Metal Ropes this last summer, which is really about dead ball techniques, but I'm suggesting how you might be able to use them with a metal bat. But I talked about this a lot, and I speculated that, well, maybe they were just, I called this fall step in metal ropes. Maybe they were literally, not to overthink it, maybe they're stepping toward the pitcher and dropping the bat and then coming loaded as they actually strode into the ball, and then dropping the barrel on the ball almost the same time that the front foot hits the ground, which is something that we read about them doing in several sources. So, hey, that may have been the right answer. I don't know. But it occurs to me that, and I think I did mention this in the book too, that, you know, we have a guy in today's game who does pretty much the same thing by the name of Cody Bellinger. I thought Cody was going to just rewrite the whole rule books in 2019, although he kind of tailed off in the second half of the season. But he's another very tall, slender guy. Now, he doesn't, you know, he stands with his feet close together and almost touching, and he also has his bat, you know, cocked way up over the rear shoulder with his elbow pointing up. So obviously when he comes out of that stride, he takes a long stride, but he stays back and he elevates the ball. I have a feeling, nevertheless, that probably most of his contact is made when the barrel is coming down into the ball, and not so much when it's coming up again. A lot of these young guys seem to think that they're lifting the ball at that launch angle as the barrel comes back up. I think they're probably backspinning it as the barrel comes back down. Of course, we don't like that at small ball success, because when there's a dip in the swing, when you stay back and you don't have a decisive forward weight shift, it puts a dip in the swing, and the dip kind of circles under the ball instead of going right to the heart of the ball with a slightly downward stroke. And that creates too much backspin if you're a little guy. If you're a big, tall guy like Cody and you have those long arms extended, then it doesn't matter if you really kind of sweep under the ball. You backspin it a whole lot, but because you got so much speed in that swing, you may just lift it over the fence. And of course, too, today, our ballparks tend to have more generous fences for the power hitters. In a dead ball era park, you'd have to hit it a whole heck of a long way to get it out. So they didn't like to elevate the ball that much. But Cody may be doing something like what somebody like Zack Wheat was doing. That's what I call the fall step. So that's something contemporary that possibly has a link to something that's very far back. Another contemporary guy, though, who's doing something that is similar but is more like Sam Thompson and King Kelly, the photos that I showed you first, I would say is Ronald Acuna Jr., because he doesn't have his barrel way over his rear shoulder and his elbow cocked and everything. He's standing pretty upright. Of course, none of them has the toe pointed out toward the pitcher, and I'll finish up talking about that. But many commentators talk about how much Acuna Jr. has those hands just low into the fore, and they can't believe that he can be so quick to the ball. And he's kind of falling or gliding or lunging into the ball and finishing his load, I think, as he does the stride. He doesn't, you know, get the foot down early and stretch the rubber band and extend the hands way back. He's got the, this is very old school. He's got the, does a little pump like this, but he's got the hands kind of being left behind as he strides into the ball. So he's finishing his load as he has a really strong forward weight shift. And then his strong hands finish it off. And that's something like maybe those other guys from the 1890s were doing. I don't think that all of them were just lunging into the ball like that. I don't, if I had to put my money on it, I think there's 60 or 70% chance. Of course, we don't have any movies of them, but I think they were probably really just bringing that open foot closed as they drop the barrel. And now we have noticed the hands. This is like the video about Mel Ott that I did the other day. This is kind of Mel Ott stuff. We have the hands very low and the foot might have come very high. And why are you doing this with the foot? so that you can come down forward decisively. Again, big forward weight shift, and the hands are following the foot down. They're almost coming down at the same time that the foot touches down. So you have that emphatic forward weight shift. You have the barrel falling on the ball and back spinning it. Hopefully, you know, this is really the heart and soul of what we advise at small ball success. Try to get that barrel to go straight into the ball at a slightly downward plane. Backspin it, but not too much. Don't sweep under it, and you get that line drive swing. And of course, with a dead ball, you really wouldn't pay to get a whole lot of backspin, because this is not going to carry. You want line drives, even if you're a power hitter like Sam Thompson or Dan Brothers. So, now I think this is probably, I'll just wind up by saying this, but I think this is probably more like what those guys were doing than simply, maybe Zack Wheat was just almost shoved the carpet right out from under me there, but maybe Zack was doing that lunge. I think these guys, like Sam Thompson, were doing this stuff, but this is more of a softball swing, isn't it? The thing is, we're talking about guys who, 1880s, 1890s, it's interesting that at the turn of the century, when you get into the early 1900s, we know that, at least I've read this in a number of sources, that pitchers at this point are starting to throw harder, decisively harder. And we also find that the front foot, you just don't see this when you get to the 1900s very much at all. It's like the foot starts to close more and more and more. Cobb and Speaker and Collins, those guys have their toes pretty much pointed to the plate at a 90-degree angle. So what's going on there? I think it has to do with the speed of the pitch. And that's why now I would put my money on this thing in 1890. I think this is a big, lazy, almost a softball size pump, and then we're going into the ball. I think that disappears because the load has to be faster. But still, I mean, maybe there's something here that, like Ronald Acuna Jr., maybe you can find pieces of this from which you might want to fashion a swing. I have disputed with myself whether I want to try to replicate that pointing the toe outward, but I think the important thing is just to be able to, now in today's game, to leave yourself enough time, obviously, to get into the pitch. So I'll try to do a demonstration and drive some of this stuff home once I get some better weather.